first part of our processing. I already started some of it, but I told you that I would bring you along for the processing of our deer meat. And that's what we're doing today. And I've got my counters. First, I bleach them down with bleach solution. Then I cover them with a layer of butcher paper. And then, of course, I work on cutting boards, but it just keeps any bacteria off my countertops. And when you're done, you just roll it all up and throw it away. So I've got a couple stainless steel bowls that I'll be using. The cut up cleaned meat after I got it done will go in this one. Then I've got one for dog scraps. All of the glaze that we cut off go for the dogs because they don't mind. It rehydrates, and we use it over their kibble. So I hope it inspires you to stay along for the video and check out how I process our deer meat. And today I'll be doing the front quarters and hind quarters of my deer. Yesterday I did all the bagged meat, the neck meat, the tenderloin. Well, the tenderloins we ate, but the back straps, just absolutely a big job. It took me all day to get all that done, but we got a ton of meat already, and we had a big pot of venison stew with homemade noodles and butternut squash. It was delicious. So I'm going to get to cutting up some more meat, and I'll bring you along. So if you like this video, whoop, thumbs up maybe, and go down in the About section, check out all the links. So this is what we have. This is one of the hindquarters off of my buck, and it's nice and cold. We brought it home and just had it in a cooler. I got all that bag meat done yesterday. And I just all this outside glaze is coming off. Any fat, sinew, any of that, to me, the fat and the sinew, that gristly connective tissue is what actually makes gamey meat gamey. But this is just dehydrated, dried out meat, and it's totally fine for the dogs. They absolutely love it. We save all that for them. If there's any inedible, like really fatty pieces, I don't want them to have excess fat. So I'm actually starting, see, like this is really nothing but fat, so they're not going to get that. But any of this sinew and glaze, they are going to get. And I'm starting a pan here because I need to cook some more up for them. So they love this time of year because they get all the extras. So basically that's what you're going to do, is just trim all this off until you get down into that beautiful red meat. And yes, it is very time consuming, but I've had bad luck sending my meat out to be done, and so we do it this way, and it doesn't ever have a gamey flavor. In fact, a lot of times I'll take something to work, and I'll say, there's stuff in the back if you want, stew or whatever it might be, a casserole or whatever, and nobody knows the difference. They just go on to eat it and assume it's beef. To working on this, and I'll bring you back when I've got this a little bit more presentable, and you can see what it looks like. So I've got the lower portion, or the upper portion, I should say, the thigh, if you will, of the leg, and it made a full pot of scraps. Got another scrap bowl started here, and look at these beautiful steaks. These would be like a petite sirloin. There's no fat or marbling, hardly at all. So you definitely want to cook them to a medium rare. If you get to a medium on that, they don't do as well. And then the rest is stew meat. I cut it in stew meat chunks, but it can also be used for to grind. So I keep that option open. It keeps better in the freezer that way, in my opinion. And we did age this deer. I started working on him yesterday at 10 days, but the actual body part here is at 11 days. So hanging him 11 days was really just perfect. This meat is just beautiful. It's going to be nice and tender and full of flavor. And we had a venison stew last night that was out of this world. So we have lunches for the rest of the week because I made a big pot. So this is probably the lower leg, and the actually the shoulders are the hardest for me to do. The hindquarter is a big chunk of meat, so And they're just a bunch of different muscle groups that you're getting in between to get, like, see here, to get that sinew and could possibly, and fat that's in between the muscle groups. You want to get that off. So you don't want to eat any of that fat. It's just like beef. I mean, you should be, pretend it's a hunk of beef, because it really is no different. It's it breaks down the same way. So that being said, I am going to finish this up, and what I do usually is I will go ahead, see how nice that separates? I'll go ahead and get this off there. Now all I have to do is cut that glaze off, and this piece, this is the shank, and I leave that together because you can see there's a lot of tendon and connective tissue, but it's just like a beef shank or a lamb shank. It's delicious if you slow cook it all day. It breaks down and it's just absolutely fantastic. So that doesn't leave any foul taste or gamey taste. And then what I'll do is package this all up, get it in the freezer, wash my cutting board and bleach everything, sharpen my knives, bleach them, and come back and do a new batch. So I start fresh every single time because I don't like a big mess. I hate a messy kitchen. So I'm going to turn you off and bring you back. So I did want to bring you along and show you. This is all off that one shank, piece of shank meat. And you can see it's got some of that gristle. And if you didn't cook this all, you know, low and slow, you wouldn't be able to eat that, chew through the gristly part. But I'll tell you what, I keep this separate and I package it and label it shank because it is my absolute favorite. It's so delicious and makes the best stew, or serve it with mashed potatoes. It's just delicious. So that will get packaged up separately. The rest will be stew or grind, and I usually label it just venison stew, and that way I can do the grind if I want to. You wouldn't want to put that kind of gristly connective tissue through your grinder, or it will clog it up really fast. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to get packaging. So I wanted to give you the end result here. I've got, these are steaks, and I package them up what Michael and I can eat in a meal, plus some leftover or repurposing for another meal, like let's say for lunches the next day. These are 2 big steaks in here, so I just gauge it by how big the steaks are, but these are all steaks, and you can also grind that. I do not, and I know somebody's going to ask me, because I got asked this last time, and I even think people mentioned it to get them recipes for that, but I don't do beef jerky or jerky with my venison. I don't do venison jerky. We work very, very hard to get this, and I don't want to put it into a snack. So I can it, I freeze it, and yeah, I just don't do the jerky thing. So that being said, this is the one hind quarter, and you know, he's pretty small in relation to, let's say, Michael's. So I got these in freezer bags, okay, Ziploc freezer bags, and then I also wrap them in butcher paper. And if you do this, you won't have freezer burn problems. I really don't get freezer burn. The only time, and I think I mentioned it when I was doing the, when I cleaned out my freezer and had to can up some dog food out of some old venison and antelope. The only thing that smelled freezer burned was the ground meat. So that's why I grind it as I go now, instead of spending all the time and having an extra mess right now is just beyond my comprehension. So we're going to put venison or V steaks. And I also got this nice package of shank meat and then 2 packages of stew meat. And I do, you know, a large and a small. Let's say I wanted to do venison chili, but I don't want to do a huge pot. I'll use a smaller package. So you just gauge it how you use it in your family. That's how I do it. Look how beautiful. It's almost like it came from the store. So here's the other hind quarter all cut up, and it didn't take me quite as long, but I will say I've been working on this now for, let's see, 1, 2, 3.5 hours. So, and I still have the 2 shoulders to go, and they're a little bit harder. There's a lot more tedious work to them. So these are all steaks. We got the shank meat, 2 packages of stew meat, and obviously the steaks or even the stew meat can be put into ground. I don't do roasts. They don't have enough fat content to come out with a really good roast unless you are able to kind of fillet it out and stuff it. I haven't had good luck with it, so we like to eat it like this. You can do however you want. If you can get a roast out of that hind quarter, then that's wonderful. I might do one on the next deer because it's going to be a bigger hunk of meat, and then maybe experiment with the recipe on the big green egg. But let's get these in the freezer and start on those shoulders. Okay, so here's one of the shoulders, and so you can see, I mean, you've got the shank meat down here, but you've got a big shoulder blade that's flat, and it's kind of hard to get all this glaze off and then get under that bone and stuff. So it's a little more knife work to it, but again, I don't waste anything. So, and I do let the dogs have the big bones. They won't get the shoulder blade, but they'll get the bottom here, and they got the back leg bones. And as long as they're raw, it's totally fine for them to have it. So that being said, let's get busy. 4.5 hours or 3.5 hours into this. Okay, so I got the shoulder cut up, and there's 2 nice bones in this. These will go in the freezer. Just put them in a freezer bag. The dogs don't care if it gets a little freezer burnt, but I doubt they'll last that long. And then I'll have 2 more off the other shoulder and all the ones off of Michael's here. So there's only a few places you can get a steak or what looks like a steak. The rest of it's stew meat or grind meat, and the lower shank portion is very, very tough, so that's a slow cook too. And then this is what came off scrap-wise, so there's quite a bit more scraps and glaze to cut off than off of the hind quarter, even though I don't know how to explain that, because I got 2 bags to put in the freezer off the hind quarters, and now I've already got another bag here. So we're going to get this wrapped up, and we'll show you what we get at the end of this, and then I'll get to working on the other shoulder. And that took me an hour. So I've got 2 bones, like I showed you, and 3 packages of stew meat, and because there's so little of the shank portion, I went ahead and mixed a little bit into each one. So I'm going to mark these venison stew with an O for only, not for grind. That way I'll know. And then I got 2 packages of steaks, little steak fillets, and then this is the dog scrap, and that's how I package it up to go in the freezer. And so there you go. That's what the other shoulder should render as well, and then we are done with this deer meat. So I hope it inspires you to maybe step outside the box, take advantage of what you have available. If you're interested in hunting, go to a hunter safety course, talk to other people. This meat is so good for you. It's all natural, organic, and it's truly part of a staple in our household. So I hope it inspires you to try some venisons when you get a chance. And I've had bad tasting venison, but I've never had any of ours taste bad. So I think it's all in the processing, what you do with it after.